So we have Bruce live in the locker room in Tallahassee celebrating on the field with the Florida State. Happened. And I don't know why. Like, we were able to run the ball so well in the first half, especially to the left side, and then all of a sudden we started to abandon it. And like I said, there is some inconsistency.
How are they going to approach this game? How are they going to beat this Florida State team?
Well, we're going to break you guys.
Okay, that's it. The show's over.
In the story, we're going to break you guys. Look, and I'm joking, but it's true. I mean,
Lord, the climb continues, KB. Oh my God!
I am sweating.
Look at my heart. Look.
You know what? Yeah, I have so much to say. Welcome back to Seminole Sideline 365. My name is KB, and with me, as always, is the old man. How are you doing today? How was your weekend going? How has your week been?
Good, man. My softball team, we got up early, had an early morning game. Boom, yeah, 9-8. We hold on to win. It's tough to win when you scored 9 runs in a softball game, slow pitch softball game. But the last 2 weeks, we won 7-4 the previous week, 9-8 today, and I'm on the injured reserve. Got a little bit of injury going on, but I'm coaching that third base. We have to scrap to make runs, so I push the guys around back. But you got to know who can run and who can't, and most of them can't run very well. So one of our better runners, he's coming from second. There's a ball in the outfield. He's coming from second, and I wave him on. I'm waving him on. I said, "Come on, Tim, let's go." He stops at third base. He stops. And then people in the dugout are yelling, "Why just stop him?" I said, "I didn't stop him." I did not stop.
In your league, he could be stopping for many reasons, including medical. So you need to be careful.
He was totally out of breath. He needs one of those things I saw in Shark Tank with the oxygen tank.
Oh, those things are popular.
Have you used one of those?
No, because I think there's. I mean, if I'm going to like Bolivia or something, I would probably take one, or mountain climbing. But no.
Yeah,
if you're just walking around daily and you need one of those, then you need to go lose some weight, or you need to increase your heart rate.
Well, you can buy those at CVS. One of the Sharks, I don't know if it was Mr. Wonderful. I think it was Mr. Wonderful. He got in on a deal on that, and he was pushing it on TV the other day. But hey, you mentioned if people ever go to Peru, you better go in about
Bolivia.
3 days.
Bolivia. If you go to La Paz, that's like the highest. I think it's the highest latitude capital,
and
or
Peru
something.
too.
Or highest altitude capital. Yeah.
If you go in there, you have to plan at least a couple of days to acclimate, because you will not feel great until you acclimate. So
yeah. So yeah, welcome back. Thanks guys for joining us.
What's going on with you?
Just work, travel, and kind of because our fiscal year ended in January, so it's a busy time of year for us. So, which aligns because obviously Florida State had nothing going on in January, so it worked out this year.
Well, that's true. It's been a little show. It's been a little slow.
But it's good to have these shows every now and again, get up to speed on what's going on, connect with you guys out there, and.
What's up, Jalen? First one out there.
Good to see you, Jalen. Thanks for coming out. We appreciate it. Yeah, like you said, we don't do this every single day like some other shows because we can't, right? We don't want to make up stuff. We don't want to make up news and regurgitate it. But we obviously want to
jump on now and then.
If there is breaking news, like the Leonard Hamilton news, which we'll dive into a little bit deeper because I didn't get to comment on that. But yeah, we enjoy coming back, and obviously as we scale into the spring, we're not having a spring game this year, so that'll be different. But there'll be some spring transfer news and stuff like that. That'll be more exciting. So once we get out of this winter thaw, it'll be nice. So yeah, it's great to be back, and we have a little docket here we'll go through some pending news, and then in the chat, if you guys have anything, let us know your thoughts and anything we should discuss tonight. We'll be monitoring that. So thanks again for coming out.
And I think we're going to be more, hit and move. Tonight on some of these topics. We're not going to dive too deeply into the details.
Well, first thing I want to bring up is Jameis here.
I found the treasure. The treasure of my heart. I found the treasure. The treasure of my heart. Go nose.
Hey, he's getting rave reviews. Jameis Winston, who is a free agent.
I think he should just go right and get a good contract with Fox, and he could be the Pat McAfee of Fox. I think people love Jameis and his personality. I think he would be. I don't think any other team's going to give him a chance to start again. And
you don't think so?
He was sat on the bench for New Orleans for 3 years, and I still think he has the ability. I still think he has the ability to. I just don't think, for some reason, they're not giving him a long-term shot, which I think is disappointing. So yeah.
He's getting big banners, though. I think Jameis is a smart guy. He knows his life in the NFL is only so long.
Yeah.
Now, that could be another 5, 6, 10 years. Not 10 years, but 5 years as a backup. Right?
Oh, no. He could absolutely, if he wanted to sail the next 5 years doing that, he could absolutely.
I think he's okay with that. And I do think
he's shown he's okay with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Jameis is a good team player. He almost takes over the team, whether he's a backup or the leader. He's a little bit of a gunslinger like Brett Favre was. He'll have 5 touchdowns one game, and then he'll have 5 interceptions in the next game. But he is a player. He's a winner. He's always had a great attitude. I think he's now looking at the future as well of doing something on TV. Not maybe as an analyst on game calls, but more in the studio. You know what I mean?
Or even like this in the fan. Well, look at Barstool, what they do. Oh, they're Barstool. Like John Gruden now is working on Barstool, probably making a good amount of money. Right. And all he does is is social media type stuff. And I think if Jameis doesn't want to be stuffy in the studio type of guy, I'm sure Barstool would offer him a deal in an instant to go do Barstool type of content on campuses during the season, different sporting events, interacting with the audience, and that's what he's great at. He's just himself, and it's great. So he's gonna have a lot of options. It's great to see him, people kind of embracing him with this, and he's loving the role, obviously. But he has a family too, so it depends how his son, right, is being recruited by Florida State now. Right. So now, he may want to step back from the NFL and have the flexibility to, go to his son's games and as he goes into his junior year of high school, as well as into college, he may want the flexibility of not being on the NFL schedule as a backup or whatever position he is.
Let me tell you this. I still think he is going to get a strong look in free agency as a starter. Okay, there are teams in the NFL that need starters, but they're not going to be great teams, and he's going to get beat up some. Yeah. Okay, I think he still has a starting role for the next couple years if he can find the right place. He for sure, 100% has a role as a tier one backup quarterback.
For sure.
And like you said, he could ditch it all. Say, I'm going to go into the TV. Yeah. I'm going to go into TV and media and entertainment.
He has great options in front of him. In front of him, and especially like I said, with his son looking at the next level, I think he'll probably do what's best for how he wants to be there for his son. Does he want a lot of options there? So
let me ask you this. His son and being offered by Florida State, is that a legacy offer or is he a legitimate player? How do you feel about that? I haven't looked at his son enough or even his stats to know if this is a legacy thing that we almost want to do that and see, is he getting a lot of other looks by Big Ten, SEC teams or not? I think that's where the cake is. Is it, Big 12, Big 10, SEC, ACC?
I
don't see it. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen.
Wait, am I getting confused? Was it not his son or was it his brother? It's his brother. I got confused. It's not his son. His sons are too young. His sons are like it's 7 or 8, and I was like, I was thinking back. I'm like, his sons are too young.
I should have corrected you. I didn't.
I think it's his brother, right? Yeah. I think it's his brother is being recruited right now. Because I was like thinking about, I was like, his sons are gotta be young.
Yeah, it's his youngest brother.
Yeah. Once again, is that a legacy thing? I mean, once again, you look back and we went after Galvin Cook's brother and lost out to Georgia. That would have been huge.
He's a good player.
He was a really good player, right? And I don't think
Buffalo.
he was a really good player, and we would have loved to have had him. So Jonah Winston, you can't compare it though. I think that's the tough part, is that people are going to compare him to his brother, who Jameis was a 5-star, top 10 recruit, dual sport athlete.
Well,
so it's going to be hard.
Marvin Jones Jr. I mean, everybody's comparing him to the old man, and you can't live up to that.
No, and right now Jonah's listed as a 3-star player, kind of an athlete. I think they list him as right now, not a solid position yet.
Right.
But he has offers. I mean, Alabama, Colorado, Auburn, Florida State. So, he's got the offers out there. And whether that's because, he's lineage, in the line and they know.
I think some of it is. I'm going to be honest. I think some of it is. Okay. Cromartie, who they just signed right out of high school, came in on this last signing date. I think he's a 3-star guy. I believe he's a 3-star guy, and I don't want to get bogged down.
Depends on the site. Some sites will say a low 4-star.
Yeah, but I think that's a legacy too. That's a legacy. You're trying to. I think that's part of the university's legacy responsibility. Unless the guy can't play at all. I mean,
if that's true, if they're only taking the kid on because he's legacy, I think that's a very bad misstep.
No, I understand. But I think it's part of the culture of football, of college football.
Yeah. And we'll see. I mean, Jonah's still got, he's a 2026 kid, so next year he'll start to get serious with him. But, I mean, if you look at the offer sheet's not bad. You see some good names on here. I mean, it's still short. It's only 10 offers. So, like you said, it could be one of those things. We'll see. It's something to monitor. But I wouldn't expect a Jameis Winston-like impact from him.
Yeah, good enough.
So we'll shift to, I think, some of the trending conversation that's been around the ACC revenue distribution. I think the big thing with the ACC and Florida State, remember, 12 months ago we were talking about every YouTube was, when's Florida State going to leave the conference? Is it SEC or Big Ten? Where are they going? And now the shift in the last 12 months, leading into January, is now, well, can we get more money on the ACC? Because we're not going anywhere, it doesn't look like. And then let me give you my opinion on this, having read some things.
You just stole my thunder there, JD. You come up with the same conclusion I did. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, so I'll give you my opinion on this, and then you can, I know you have a lot more of the facts on where the cases are and stuff like that.
I'm not going to dive into every number, but I have an opinion on it.
But, so my opinion on this is that it has dramatically shifted from people saying we're going to people saying we're staying, and how do we squeeze more blood out of this stone that is the ACC? And I think there are ways to do that. I think what's been leveraged is the ACC is potentially going to, give more distribution to the top schools based on viewership, TV viewership, like Clemson, Florida State, and also a performance pay model where, teams that perform the best get more pay. I think those are decent options. You're still not going to be competitive to the SEC and Big Ten in terms of payouts, but it will better alleviate some of those concerns, because if you can't go anywhere, it's better to adjust that contract as best you can versus just keeping it the way it is. Especially when you know that even going 2-10, you still drive a majority of viewers to ACC football than 3/4 of the schools there. Now, the performance-based metrics is something that Florida State fans haven't talked about, because when you go 2-10, you're not going to get payouts from that. So you also have to be performing well to get that payout if that avenue gets adjusted in the ACC deal. Now, what I'm going to say is I don't believe Florida State will be leaving the ACC anytime soon because of one big thing. And that one big thing is that we have to, and this didn't get really brought up a lot, and even I didn't think about it when it first came up. And some of that is because the SEC and Big Ten, especially the Big Ten, were aggressive in adding schools like Oregon, USC. They got really aggressive in that time period of adding schools, and Florida State was like, oh, can we get in that? But with their new deal and how it's and the big payouts it is, if the Big Ten were to add a new school, all those schools would have to be signing up for them diluting their share of the contract. And what's in it for them to do that? Unless Fox or the TV studios are gonna come back to them and say, do you guys want more money? Which they aren't. They just signed a massive deal to the Big Ten, paying them a large sum of money. And if the Big Ten were to add another school, that dilutes the shares of all those schools, the shareholders, and their payouts. But that there's no reason why the TV, why the distribution channel is going to go and say, okay, let's give you another $100 million to pay Florida State now. So that's why I think this argument is getting worse and worse for the people who want Florida State to leave, is because there's no incentive anymore for the Big Ten or SEC to add Florida State or Clemson or Miami or whoever you want to their conferences because of that dilution, and because these deals that they just signed are done. They're essentially done, and ESPN, Fox, they're not looking to give out more money if they don't have to, because these channels, these media companies are struggling right now with money. They're bleeding out. That's why they're laying off people. So that is one big reason why that's been overlooked, is that I don't think Florida State has a place to go right now. And that's no offense to the Florida State brands or anything like that. I just don't think those schools and those conferences are willing to take that dilution because those negotiations are done. But what are your thoughts on this whole thing?
Well, yeah, I was definitely going to raise this issue tonight. I think it's one of those issues that gets little publicity. It's kind of like FSU fans don't care about it until something really big pops. This legal lawsuit has been dragging on now with FSU. I'm not even going to mention the Clemson lawsuit against the ACC too. It's all about the grant of rights. I'm not going to dive into that. I'm not going to get into numbers. But I will say this. I think you're right about the winds have changed direction a little bit. I'm getting this feeling now that there could be a settlement on the horizon. I don't know what date that would be. I have how long that will be. But millions of dollars have already been spent by Florida State in legal battles on this issue. But I get there's a shift. Judges want things settled between the parties. Judges don't want to make decisions, but they will. If you force a judge into making a decision, they'll make it. They'd rather you settle it, okay? I think the settlement has shifted towards Florida State potentially staying in the ACC, as you summarized, and getting bigger pieces of the pie based on performance and brand. And I was looking at some data this week that Florida State is in the top 10 of schools in the country in brand. I don't care what the record was last year. They look at a record for the history of the brand, okay? Anybody can have an up year, everybody can have a down year. But they look at the history. But in terms of TV revenue and brand, when people tune in, Florida State's one of those top 10 teams. So they're a money-making machine in that regard. Now, I am disappointed if they've spent this time and the money to do all this work and then just stay in the ACC for this reason. Because if they still come up short, which the revenue that I looked at this week, they will come up short. They are behind SEC and the Big Ten in terms of the revenue. ACC teams are, and that means Florida State will be. Now the question is, can they make that money up somehow to ensure that that's not used against them in recruiting and NIL and other matters? Okay, because if you're considered a third tier of the Power Five, some players are going to say, I don't want to play in that. I want to go to the SEC or the Big Ten. I think I don't put a lot of stock in that. If you can play good ball in the ACC, you're going to get drafted. All right? You're going to get drafted. So the question is, it will be a money issue. And I will be disappointed for the long run. And I'm talking 10 years down the road. I'm talking after my lifetime. Where if they stay locked in the ACC, this money differential could continue to grow, given the reports and the presentations we've seen, and that could eventually hurt Florida State athletics. So that's the way I see it. But apparently, this ESPN extension to the ACC, it was a 2-year deal that they could pick up an option on. That helped settle things down a little bit. The ACC commissioner thinks. However, and they think that will help a settlement for Florida State to stay in the ACC. I think it will be a mistake if they don't use this window to escape, even if they had to go independent for a little while and suck some air and try to get into the SEC or the Big Ten. That's my opinion.
That's always been the back of my mind is, would going independent be the worst option to, kind of bet on yourself and bet on your brand?
Are you willing to take that chance? Like we always hear, are you willing to take a chance for a better future, or are you going to stay in the comfortable zone that you might be? Because if they can't explain to the boosters and to the fans how they're going to make up this money, KB, I think it's a mistake. I think they've done all this work. If you can get out, I think it's the way to go. So that's my take on that.
There's only three independents in college football right now: Notre Dame, Connecticut, and Massachusetts.
Well, 2 of those 3 don't matter. They're not going anywhere.
But I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I don't, and there's probably reasons to why, Connecticut and Massachusetts, how they survive as football programs outside of conference, I'm not sure. But it shows that you can, as a non-brand name football program, you can somehow sustain yourself on the FBS level, and they do not have the football brand power that Florida State has. Obviously Notre Dame and what they do with NBC and they have a sweet deal. But for Florida State to do it, they would have to have a similar type of deal that Notre Dame has. They would have to find a media company to support to do that type of deal. So that it's not just as easy as saying we're going to go independent and give up all that revenue. You have to find a way. So
now, there would be behind the scenes talks of how this would work out until they find a place at the table with the 2 big conferences. I just feel in my bones that this is a window, and if we miss this window, it's not going to get any easier to do it again. So it's either you really got to be saying I'm going to stay in the ACC for a long time, or I'm gonna bolt now and take my chances.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see where it leads.
Yeah, so, we'll continue to follow this. I like to see what's happening, but it's a long, dragged-out battle, and generally it's settled between the 2 sides.
Yeah, so some other things I want to talk about here, because that kind of covers the contract extension, stuff like that, the ACC and ESPN. We kind of touched on it in the beginning of the intro, but this is shifting a little bit more. We'll shift back and forth between sports, but shifting to basketball, because it's related. Was the news of Leonard Hamilton stepping down. I think when we had our show last March or last February, and Florida State obviously was struggling last year, we said they're going to give him 1 more year, and because he didn't get extended, they're going to give him 1 more year, and it'll be his kind of farewell tour. And people are, you lost some recruits, and the news came out. You had a lot of transfers. The news came out, most recently in the last month or so that they're alleging that they didn't get payments, and that's why they left, and And this season started off strong. You had some FSU fans saying, oh, this is the type of basketball we're used to seeing. Well, it was mostly because they played a week out of conference. And then now they've come a little bit back down to earth during ACC play and kind of struggled for the most part. So there is going to be unless something magical happens, there's going to be no postseason play for Florida State this offseason, which is why Leonard Hamilton kind of came out and said, this is going to be it for me. Florida State has 3 games remaining. Virginia Tech, Notre Dame, they have a couple of games left, I believe.
No, they've got several games left, KP.
Not several.
Yeah, they've got several, being like 5 or 6 or
yeah,
and they're not easy games. It's
No.
not going to be an easy way to bring the car back to the garage.
No. So yeah, they finish up, I believe. Yeah, they have Clemson, Miami, Wake Forest. So like you said, they have a couple more here towards the end of the season.
They let some easy wins get away from them in that four loss stretch. Then they beat Notre Dame. That was their last game, which was a big win at home. That was the first game after his decision to leave, so that was a big.
It wasn't a big win because Notre Dame sucks.
No,
so,
I know.
Like,
any win is a big win for Hamilton now and this team. Is what I'm saying. That was a big win. It was the first game after the resignation. It wasn't like Notre Dame's number one. I totally agree. But this next stretch of games is not easy to finish the year.
And I don't even care about finishing the year. It's about moving forward and what are the decisions moving forward for this team. And that's going to tell you, I think, a lot about what this athletic department thinks of the FSU program. Are they going to go in the direction of kind of backing it? Because I think the last 3 or 4 years since 2020, the COVID year, when Florida State had a great team, but then the tournament got canceled, and what could have been, should have been, we don't know. Because that could have been a really good, magical year for Florida State, but we'll never know. And since that COVID year, and then the portal kind of started, Florida State's really been off track with Leonard Hamilton. It's not been good. And I don't think that since then we've seen the great shift in how you play the portal from our Florida State basketball program. And I haven't seen the statements. I haven't seen the support. I haven't seen the collectives kind of rallying around this basketball program.
You don't hear anything. You don't hear anything. The fans aren't that interested in it. Like you say, the booster. It just they're not.
And I think it's because, and when they were good, when they had pre-2020, when you were churning out first and second round picks in the NBA draft. The Tucker Center was packed, and you had, and I think, we can admit Tallahassee's going to be a seasonal kind of fan, that they're not going to pack that place. This isn't going to be like Nebraska football, where if Nebraska sucks, they're still selling out the stadium, right?
That's right?
For basketball, for Florida State, if they suck, nobody's going to show up, which is sad, but it's just the reality. Florida State is not a pure blue blood basketball school. We all know that. That's not breaking news.
Never has been.
But you've had legends go through. You've had Sam Cassell. You've had Bobby Surratt. You've had really great, some would say,
Dave
legends.
Cowens.
Yeah.
Dave Cowens, the old Dave Cowens, legend with Boston Celtics.
You've had great NBA players come through Florida State, but still to this day, the fans won't show up if this team struggles. And so that's where the AD has to step in and say, we've kind of taken our foot off the basketball program a little bit. We've stopped, in my eyes, investing in the basketball program a little bit, and we let Leonard do his thing. And it is where it is now, right? You may have potentially a losing season again. You'll be right on the edge, 14-9 right now. Could be 500 at the end of the year. No postseason for us. What direction do we want to move in? Do we want to just keep ourselves kind of in the middle of the pack of the ACC? The ACC is not what it used to be, right? This isn't a power conference where you have 8 or 9 strong teams going to the tournament every year. There's usually 4 or 5 now top teams in the ACC. Now SEC's really come on and become a strong basketball conference. So, but that is an opening for Florida State. They don't have to sign 3, 4, 5-star recruits to be competitive anymore. They just have to have some pulse in recruiting and in the transfer portal. If you want to go and get sick, look at Florida State's recruiting and transfer portal class of the last couple of years. It tells you why they've been so terrible. But you'll see. We'll see in their coaching search and their coaching evaluation what direction they want to go. Do they just go and get some kind of assistant that's kind of floated around the last couple of years? No real kind of go get a recruiter, elite recruiter, stuff like that. Some guy that's just going to come in and kind of keep the program afloat. Is that who they go for with no kind of background and bringing elite talent in? Or do they go for like, do they shoot for the Dennis Gates type of guy? You know, an old assistant, Leonard Hamilton, who's now at Missouri, who's crushing it. Now, do I think they could go and get Dennis Gates from Missouri? Probably not. There's probably zero chance unless they throw a S-ton of money at him. Now, that would show me that they're all in. They're all in on making Florida State a great basketball school again, as well as a football school. That if they go and they say, Dennis Gates, we want you to come back, take over for Leonard Hamilton, come back to your roots here, and we want to give you, pay you more than Missouri's paying you. I don't think he would, it'd be stupid for him to take this because he's built Missouri into a little bit of a powerhouse in terms of being a ranked team competing every single year in the SEC. But that would show me some commitment of what direction they want to go in taking this program. Something like Sam Cassell would be an interesting one. That guy's coached in the NBA for, it feels like decades now. I think he's got 10 plus years at the NBA level. A guy that knows basketball, I think would have, once again, he could sell you at the pro level. He has connections there. That would be, to me, another strong pick. But the selection process will tell me a lot about where Alford and his search committee are looking and how much money they're willing to spend to get a great coach. That's really where it comes down to me. If they kind of cheap out and they go for some up-and-comer and some kind of I don't want to say a cheap coach or a budget decision and trying to strike gold in somebody that's kind of under the surface, that'll tell me that they're trying to get a discount up-and-comer and that'll tell you all you need to know. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, it was time for Hamilton to leave. I've been shouting that a long time. You've been in agreement with that, I believe.
Yeah.
And I was shouting that just a couple of days on Twitter before the announcement came out. I sent a direct tweet to A.D. Alford, and you've seen my tweets. They're always addressing this issue, and I was shocked when it came out. So was I responsible for getting that move made? Probably not. But Alford, who does read these things, he does read these Twitter things. It's amazing. And I think I asked, what I asked in my last one? I don't have it here to pull up, but it was about transparency, that the fans wanted transparency in what was going on with basketball. I think that's what fans deserve. They're the ones who spend the money. Just tell us what the hell's going on. Now, everything you just addressed, I agree with. But whether or not we're going to know what the budget is, what is the budget for the basketball program? Like, what is the budget for the football program? We don't know what those numbers are. Now, Dennis Gates, is he going to give up an SEC job to come to Florida State to reinvent that program? I don't see that.
I don't
now,
think so.
The rumor that's been floating around is a former Florida State this week is a former Florida State player, Luke Lokes.
See that.
Now he's an assistant up, I think, with Sacramento Kings. He's up or somebody. He's an assistant in the NBA. He has been, but he when he left Florida State, he got drafted to the NBA. He didn't play in the NBA. He played overseas. That's okay. His problem is he's not networked in with high school coaches. He is not familiar with the NIL part of basketball now. Could he get up to snuff on that? Yeah, probably could. I think he's a smart guy, brings the NBA piece in, which is important. But that's, I don't, he's not an established head coach at any level. So I think it's going to be an interesting pick, like you say, and I don't think they can wait. Will they wait till after the tournament's over? They'd only do that if they're looking at a guy who's going to go to the tournament, but that's a lot of guys. How many teams is that? 68?
Yeah.
64? I mean, and if you're looking at a guy who's not in the tournament, what does that tell you? So it's how long do you wait? That's all the details. We're not going to get into that tonight, but I agree with you. It's going to be an interesting choice. But let's say this. FSU's football will always be premier at this school. The basketball program and what their budget is an unknown, and it's not transparent to us.
Yeah. I think, like you said, Luke Locks is an interesting pick. He was on one of the really good Florida State teams under Hamilton.
Yes.
I think that's one of the definitions I had of like a discount pick of a rising star coach. It could turn out really good, but that's where you're going to save some money by going after a guy that's trying to make his name with his first head coaching, position, right? So, and that tells me that Florida State doesn't want to spend a lot of money, but they're trying to get a high return potentially, right? So they don't want to spend a lot of money and get a high return. They're trying to get a discount on potentially a big bet, which could also turn out really badly again.
But you're in the business world. You understand there are budgets, right? Don't you think Florida State's basketball program, like the baseball program, the softball, they all have budgets?
But baseball went all in on a good coach. Baseball went all in and got a great coach. They spent their whole budget.
No, I understand that. I think Alford is going to go out and he's going to bring somebody in that's going to be known. I think he's got to do that. If not,
but that's what I'm saying. If they don't, that tells you what they think about the basketball program at Florida State. Mm-hmm. Because other names that have been put out there are Charlton Young at Missouri, who is Dennis Gates' assistant, who also was under Leonard Hamilton when they were in the 2010s, the great team, and had built up some great recruiting classes here with him. So that would be I think that would be a better name. That if you can't get Dennis Gates, get his top assistant who was with Leonard Hamilton. I think that would be a good one. Sam Cassell, I think, would be a great one. If you're going to go for an NBA guy.
What about a long shot of Charlie Ward?
Jesus, no.
Why?
No.
Charlie Ward played in the NBA for a long time.
What has he been doing now?
Coaching high school basketball, I believe.
See, and once again, that would just be a legacy high school.
That would be a roll of the dice, right?
Yeah.
Roll of the dice. Okay.
Once again, yeah.
I've got a friend. He's a UConn grad. He thinks UConn. I was talking to him about this. He says there's a couple of good, really good assistants at UConn men's basketball program. He thought would be itching for maybe a head job like Florida State.
I think once again, I don't think Florida State's an elite job. It's a good job in a decent conference. So there's going to be people that want the job. There's going to be people that want the job. That's a given. And so it's who they decide that they want to go after and how much they're willing to spend. That's just going to tell me if they're going to put the collectives around it. Because it's not just the coach you get. It's how much money does that coach have to have available to them to recruit with as well? Because that is the name of the game now. It's what budget do they have, like we just said, to recruit, to develop, and go out there with. So if that coach only has 50% of what Clemson has, because Clemson has a decent basketball program, they built that back up, and so. What is Alford and the collectives? What are they willing to give the next coach? And I'm sure that'll be one of the questions that each of these coaches, like Charlton Young and Sam Cassell, asks: is what do I have to work with if I come back here?
I think FSU fans in the program would be satisfied if we could be in the top half of the ACC or better, top 4 teams, top 4 or 5 teams, and and then get a berth. Get a berth in the big dance every other year, maybe. Something like that.
Be competitive.
We be competitive. We're not even competitive.
No,
that's a good word. We're not even competitive. So we've had players come and go. Players who were stars one year, they left the team to chase some more money. And I think that's I don't blame the coach for that. That's a money bag grab. But now we've got this lawsuit against. Hamilton, specifically against Hamilton, right? Which I guess if it's against Hamilton, it's against the FSU program as well. So the problem, that's a problem. And here we go with guys again. Well, I was promised money. Listen, everybody out there, contracts, documents, signed, writing, paper, emails, something that you can walk into court with and say, here's what I have. If you ever go to court and you don't have documentation, which is what the judge only cares about, that's all they care about. They've heard your story. They've heard someone else's story. I was promised this. I was promised that. A friend of mine just went through that, and I told him, I said, Pat, listen to me. It's about documentation. Person with the best documentation wins the case. if these guys don't have a lot of documentation, which I think they do, I think they have some of this. It's going to be interesting to see. It's probably going to be a settlement out of court, and it'll be a closed, maybe locked up thing that nobody knows about. No transparency. We'll see.
Yeah. And the person who comes in here is going to have to recruit their butt off, because that's what's been lacking at Florida State the last couple of years.
Yep.
So
we'll continue to watch it.
Yeah. So other things to go through here, I believe that you wanted to talk about is, I guess softball's kicked off. So they're.
By the way, let me speak on that. Yeah. In fact, can I speak on that for a minute?
Yeah. All yours.
Yeah. Ladies softball, which this is a very good program. Ladies softball is a very good program. In fact, they're playing right now as we speak. They started about at 8:00, and they're playing Oklahoma State. Now, they opened against Oklahoma State down in Puerto Vallarta. Is that it? Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. There's a tournament. Yeah, Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. There's a tournament down there. They started against Oklahoma State, who is a good, very solid softball
number
program.
4 in the country, I would say they're pretty good.
Yeah. We lost 9-6. Okay, we lost 9-6. Now, here's what happened. Our pitching staff got rocked. They got rocked in that game, okay? None of our pitchers, I'm not going to go through all the names right now. It's too early. Got rocked. But our coach, Alameda, she used a lot of pitchers in that game. She's trying to find a good rotation, top 3 pitchers. But they're playing right now, and what's the score? I can't even read it.
It's not live on the site, so I can't.
Yeah, it is.
Oh,
well, no, it's live. I'm following it on Twitter. Maybe you can find a score while I talk.
I'm on the website. I'm on the website.
We came back and then beat Northern Colorado 7-1. Then we beat Louisiana Tech twice, 6-3 and 9-1. So she is trying to. 0-0 right now. We're losing
0-0. That would be not
0-0. I think this is going to be a good softball team. I would be very surprised we don't get into the regionals this season. I think it's going to be, can we find 2 dominant pitchers and a 3rd pitcher to fill that gap and be injury-free in our pitching staff. The pitching staff's not real deep. It's not real experienced. So I think it's going to be very interesting. But how we stand up against ACC teams and the major independents like in Oklahoma and Oklahoma State and Texas, those types of teams that are just in the World Series all the time, that pitching staff is going to be the key. Now,
for sure.
Let me switch over to baseball for a minute. Baseball kicks off on the 14th, 15th, and 16th with a 3-game set at Dick Howser Stadium with James Madison. The Dukes of James Madison are coming in, getting out of that cold weather up your way in Virginia, and they're going to do a nice 3-game set down there at Howser. I'll be very interested, and there's going to be a lot of games on the ACC network. And you know what you can find, Seminole fans? Go on YouTube, put in Florida State baseball or softball live, and you can find some free telecasts that are out there. So baseball should be very, very interesting. Looks like we got a pretty good pitching staff, and we got pretty good run-scoring ability so far in the scrimmages and stuff like that. I think it'll be fantastic year to watch both these teams.
Yeah, should be a good season, good schedule right there. So like you said, they kick off the 14th against James Madison, and should be some good games there. And then
of course the Seminoles were playing down here at University of South Florida in Tampa, but unfortunately the old man is going to be in rehab, so I was going to go to that.
There you go. And with that, we also need to talk about, there was Florida State's, we didn't talk about it at the time, but Florida State's football schedule got released. I know that there was some interesting feedback on that. Did you have any initial feedback on the actual schedule of dates, times, and that news coming out on Florida State's official schedule being released? I
didn't really get too much into when they have a free weekend or the times of the games. I didn't really look at it from that aspect, to be honest with you. I looked at it. Yeah, I looked at. I looked at it from the standpoint of ease of schedule. Okay, now game one, all the stuff we hear coming out of spring practice, all the stuff we hear coming out of the guys that have all the access, and this guy caught this ball, and this guy looked good in a 3-point stance, and this guy looked good running the football, or this guy dropped the ball. None of that shit's going to matter, because what's going to matter is when they kick it off against Alabama, which will be a big game. The time has not been announced. I suspect that's going to be a night game. They want that stadium rocking, and that would be a great game to have at night with all the color and the celebration and everything like that in the new renovated stadium. That game is going to tell us. I don't think we have to win that game, but we must be competitive in that game.
Yeah.
That's the key. Be competitive. Competitive is within 10 points, maybe 14, 10 to 14 points. To me, that's competitive when you're coming off such a crap season, which we had. The rest of the year, I don't like the off date on September the 13th. I don't think that's a good place to have it for us, to be honest. I'd rather had it right between Virginia and Miami. I would have rather had it there. But at the worst case, going into the Miami football game, we should be 3-1. Worst case. Best case, we upset Alabama. We're undefeated going in there. Okay, that's a little bit of a stretch, but Alabama's also regrouping. They're going to bring in a new quarterback, but they usually have some good quarterback athletes, so I think they're going to be okay. So the rest of the schedule sets up pretty good for Florida State. When they roll into Miami, they're going to be playing Miami. They got a new hired gun quarterback in there, the Georgia quarterback. I think this schedule looks pretty good for Florida State to win 8 or 9 ball games this year.
Yeah, I mean, first thing that stands out is 5 of your first 6 games are at home, which is great. I mean, you know that's a great way to start the season in your new stadium or new renovated stadium. 5 of your first 6 are at home, 4 of your first 5 are at home. With only but you do have 2 ranked games in that schedule. But like you said, going into Miami, worst case scenario, you should be 3-1. Best case 4-0, with a chance to knock off Miami, which I think hopefully should be a competitive game this year, with a revamped team. And I think the only things that really stood out to me is like you said, every game on this schedule I think should be competitive for the most part. Clemson's going to be very, very tough. They always are, and they've retained a lot of talent, and they've actually brought in some pieces from the portal, some key pieces they want. I think the thing with Clemson is that they lost only 5 scholarship players to the portal this offseason. So they've done a very good job of retaining talents over the last 2 years. And that's why they've been so consistent in what they do. Over the past 2 years, there's a stat on this. Over the past few years, transfer-wise, they've only lost 17 players to the portal, which is the lowest in the country. And only, like I said, 5 this past offseason. Same with SMU. SMU has only lost 4. And that's a big deal when you talk about consistency of how you play and perform, especially in the era of every year of free agency in college football. These things have to take note. Now, we don't play SMU this year, so that's a good thing. But with Clemson, you're going to have to expect there's not going to be a lot of drop-off from what you saw last year, especially with the quarterback coming back, especially with a lot of their key pieces coming back. So that'll be a tough one. But I think the tough thing on this part of the schedule is Virginia Tech. You then go to Friday night in Raleigh, which is never going to be fun. I don't care what type of year they're having. Friday night in Raleigh is a very, very tough place to play. And then you follow that up by going to Gainesville the Saturday after.
There's no break
going to Gainesville.
Either.
Yeah, there's no break going to Gainesville. So you have 2 back-to-back tough road games, Friday and then into a Saturday. This could be a huge hole for them. a huge hole for them that's being overlooked. These 3 weeks. I think even you can include Virginia Tech, but Clemson, North Carolina on the road Friday night, and then Gators. This last 4-game stretch for them is going to be very, very tough. So this is where I think you could, even if you start strong here, which I think you have to. This is the trap part of the season right here. So these last 4.
Well, here's the good news. The good news is you could lose to Florida and Alabama, and it doesn't hurt you in the ACC championship run. Okay.
No, but you can't. But once again, these two is sandwiched in the middle. You can't trip up. Like
I think we'd be disappointed. I would be disappointed if we can't beat Virginia Tech. They're regrouping. They've been in a dumpster fire. North Carolina State is always inconsistent. If you're having an off night, they can beat you, but they shouldn't beat a Florida State team. They should. Mike Norvell has.
We should have went 2-10, but we did. So that's the thing.
No, but what I'm saying is Mike Norvell has admitted guilt. He said that this thing's going to turn around quick, and I'm going to fix it. So when he says that, fans expect you should beat NC State. That's my expectation. I mean, we've been asking that the whole time. What are the fans expecting on a turnaround? We fixed it. Is it 8 wins? Is it 6 wins in a bowl game? Is it we have to go to the ACC championship game? I don't know what the expectations are. Now Norvell supposedly had made a statement. He wasn't mentally tough last year. You know what the hell is going on?
I agree with that.
Okay,
I
you know
100%
what? You know what
that.
I'm about. I'm an old style, old school type guy. Fix the damn problems. Quit fooling around. Okay, and I don't want to. Well, I'm not going to get into what's going on in our country, but fix the damn problems. Quit making excuses. Go and clean house. If a player's not with the program, get rid of him. Okay. Do you think the pros in the NFL, if a guy's not in the program, mentally and physically and playing, he's gone. This is real life. We got to stop putting in the water parks for the players to get them to come to the damn school. Now, I think how much more shit can we add at Florida State to bring in players? Right now, it's about bags of money, but you got to be careful with that too. So
that's the funny thing. It's not, but it's not. That's the thing that
we have to beat NC State. We have to beat them. We have to beat a Virginia Tech. There's no excuses. You can't lose to Kent State. You can't. People have had enough of that, and that's why Thomas Castellanos is here. Thomas Castellanos is going to generate some points. Okay, he is, and I just hope to hell he doesn't get injured because we have nothing behind him that's proven. Period. Okay, so you've got to beat NC State, Virginia Tech, Wake Forest, Stanford. Pitt's going to be a tough game. Virginia, it should beat them. You should easily have 6 or 7 wins and not even think about it. But is that going to be enough to satisfy the fans? I don't know.
I think you have to be in contention for an ACC title. I mean, you have
because in 26 you're going to have to rebuild this team again. You're going to have to go get a new quarterback. You have to rebuild your offensive line. I mean that's the way it is. But let's not talk about and I agree with you, KB. NC State on the road is going to be a tough game. However, you shouldn't have. We have to learn to win again. We have to learn to win again, and fans are not going to accept. Oh well, we got upset by Virginia Tech at home. It's unacceptable.
So think of it this way. If you beat the teams you should beat, which is Virginia, Pitt, Stanford, that's 3 ACC wins. Wake Forest is 4, Virginia Tech is 5, NC State is 6. What it took to get to the ACC championship game last year was 7 wins in the ACC.
And those 7 wins are here. They're here.
Well, you would have to knock off Miami or Clemson to get there.
Okay, you should.
Because last year, SMU and Clemson got there with 7 wins.
Okay,
and Miami fumbled it by losing to Syracuse. So you either need to beat Miami or Clemson to get to the ACC title. If you win the games that you are supposed to win in the ACC.
Yeah.
You have to knock off either Miami or Clemson to get there.
Well, I would say that's what Mike Norvell has promised. He's promising a quick fix. If you lose to Florida, you lose to Miami, you lose to Clemson.
You're not. You're.
What have you done? What have you done?
Nothing.
If you lose to Alabama and Florida, Clemson and Miami, what have you done?
You not be the ranked team.
You're still going to go to a bowl game.
It doesn't. That doesn't mean
you're going to go to a flush bowl game, and so the fans will be having a lot of debates of what the hell is going on. Well, we need one more year. Well, you're rebuilding. You got to go get another quarterback. You got to rebuild your interior line again, and you're reshuffling the pieces again. So he has to win probably 2 out of those 4 games.
I just told you the games he needed to win. He needs to win the gimmies and then beat Clemson or Miami, and he gets the ACC title.
I'd rather see him win the ACC games than the out of.
That's what I'm saying. I gave you the gimme games that he had to win. Was the ACC ones: Virginia, Pitt, Stanford, Wake Forest, NC State, Virginia Tech. That's 6 ACC, and then you have to either knock off Miami or Clemson to get there.
There you go, and that's doable, according to Mike Norvell. There's a new attitude. And
if it's not doable, then you need to find a coach that it makes it doable.
Well,
because Miami or Clemson are not going anywhere, and if you can't win a ranked game in the shit conference, then you need somebody who can.
Right, and you just said it. This is a weak conference. It's not getting any stronger, and it's a problem. It's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, and if you can't, SMU got there in year 1. They're building, and they got unlimited funds. You're going to have to compete. You got to have to learn to compete. And you got teams like SMU or Arizona State, who I think too. Some of these coaches, maybe it's not Mike Norvell, maybe it is, but some of them have, I think, over leveraged money and maybe use money too much in their recruiting pitch, and not enough on development and not enough on. We're going to get you to the next level, and maybe not have that support staff. Because I think Dillingham, and maybe that's him bluffing and stuff like that, but he brought up in this interview on that they don't have the resources to pay every recruit top money and stuff like that. And, he tells them that. We can't pay you the best money, and I'll play some of this because I think it's interesting. Because this is a Mike Norvell guy. This is a Mike Norvell guy. So I think it's interesting to hear it from his perspective. And you saw what they did in the playoffs, and one call.
Let's see if he can stay consistent, though, and get to the playoffs.
And I'll say this publicly because I say it privately. It doesn't matter. Nobody comes here because they get paid more money. So if you're a recruit, I'm sorry. You come here because you see the opportunity, and you see that kids are not leaving our program. You see that our guys, our best players in our team, want to be here. And if that's not going to show you that we treat our own players the right way, then the sales pitch is useless, because our own players have made the decision to be here. Our own players that have been tampered with, our own players that could have gone in the portal, our own guys who are being called by every school in the country are choosing to stay. Then the model we're doing is obviously somewhat correct. And that's will be my vision from now till forever. We're not going to use money and salary caps and all this stuff to try to get a guy to come here. Nor do the NCAA rules want you to. You're not even supposed to. We're going to reward the people on our team that deserve it. And that's the model I believe in.
And I'll tell you, he says this, and they got to the playoffs, like you said. They had a great run, but they haven't recruited very well. So if you look at any team rankings, I mean, they're not top 10 in Big 12, whether it's transfer rankings or high score rankings. So
he had 1 year.
Can they replicate it through development? Maybe they can. Maybe they can.
But he has 1 year. I don't base anything on 1 year.
No, I agree.
Look at a trend.
I agree.
You have to look at trends. There's no trend there, like at Florida State right now under Norvell. There's no trend. He had, there
is some of the trend. He inherited a shitty program that had come off like 2 wins and
but he didn't
sanctions.
Sustain. He didn't. Mike Norvell did not sustain for whatever reasons. Okay, and so Bobby Bowden sustained. Okay, he built and he sustained for years. Okay, so when everybody thinks, "Oh, Mike Norvell's the greatest coach," and he hasn't sustained anything. Okay, let's be honest here. This program.
I'm not talking about Mike
honesty.
Norvell in this discussion. Why are you bringing up Mike Norvell?
Well, I'm just saying when we're talking about Dillingham, I'm talking the same thing. He hasn't sustained anything yet. Let's see what he does over the next 2 or 3 years. Okay, let's see. But Mike Norvell is in a very precarious position. He's going to win enough games to go to a bowl game. That's almost 100%. The question is, what can he get outside of those 6 wins to try to get to the ACC championship? That's what people want to see. So that'll be very interesting. And that takes us to what are your thoughts on any of the last minute here, last signings, the high school guys? I didn't see anything that they get excited about. I'm not going to dive into deep like some of the programs do that have to fill time. We're not going to do that. These guys that they signed aren't going to be major contributors for a year or two. So I'm not overly excited about that. We'll do some position group shows down the road here. Anything else on the football team that you have?
No, I mean, like you said, it'll be interesting with no spring game what gets released, because it's, you'll get select coverage here and there on development and who's showing what. So it'll just be interesting because we won't get to see it with our eyes, just what players look like. And, even with that view, typically it's it's not an accurate view of what's happening, but at least you get to see players on the field. We may not know who's injured in the spring because players get injured in the spring.
I'll tell you, the transparency of what's going on seems to have closed down a little bit more. I haven't heard much about the tour duties going on. Usually you see a lot of stuff on that. A lot of talk on that, or this guy's doing great, or this guy can fall down, whatever. I don't see a lot of that, so maybe they've changed things up a little bit of what they're doing. I sure wish Florida State would get active with another state team to just do 7-on-7 passing, no hitting, no pads. Do 7-on-7 drills with quarterbacks and receivers against, pick a team, University of Florida, A&M.
I don't care what he does. I don't care what he does. Just win. Just get back to winning. It doesn't. That's not going to help them get back to winning.
It does.
No.
KB, scrimmages has always been part of most sports. I don't know why college football doesn't do that, but that's just me. You want to get back to winning? Those things help you. The same shit of Mike Norvell running 100 yards and beating some linemen, let's change up. It's not working. That's not working. Let's tell the guys we're going to do 7-on-7 with our offense and defense, and we're against Florida A&M or University of Florida. There's not going to be any nonsense. Anybody who does anything wrong is going to be punished. Just go out and play 7-on-7 like they do in high school, in those star camps or whatever that shit is that they do. That's different. That is learning. You're going against somebody you don't know. Okay, that's all I got to say on that. Okay, let's go on to our guy, Jared Verse. Jared Verse, defensive player, rookie player of the year in the NFL. I never thought I'd hear that.
Yeah, you were the most critical of him, I think.
I was critical of him. I didn't say he was a bad player. I just said I didn't think he was ready to accomplish what he has accomplished. This guy has transformed himself, just like his partner, Mr. Fisk. They have transformed themselves into NFL high-caliber players, and they play right next to each other. Congratulations to both of them.
Yep. I honestly think Verse plays better in the NFL than he did in college. I think he's gotten really good at the pro level.
Well, he understands now it's his business. That's what it is.
No, I don't think it's just that. I don't know. I think he just took it to the next level in the NFL, and for whatever reason,
an amazing story.
And I think too, it was smart by the Rams to bring the guy that played interior with him in Fisk. I think that was a smart move by their front office.
And Fisk made a lot of highlight films too. So let's not think he sloughed off. That guy was pushing the pocket and had a lot of quarterback pressures. Both of them did very well. Congratulations to both of them. Super Bowl coming up. We're going to get your predictions now.
I don't care.
Florida State Seminoles in the Super Bowl game. For the Eagles, Johnny Wilson. Johnny Wilson, who's not had some big spectacular year, I'm surprised he's not getting a little bit more use in the red zone. But a friend of mine who's a big Eagles fan said they got some elite receivers. So a first-year guy is not going to do too much in the receiving corps. But you know what? A Johnny Wilson could be put in the red zone in this game and maybe make a catch like Benjamin did.
They said he was dressing out. They said he was dressing out, so.
Okay, Johnny Wilson could make a play that would surprise everybody. And then you got the defensive end who's a real established star now, Josh Sweat. He's been in the league. Who wasn't a superstar at Florida State?
Yes, he was. Josh Sweat was very, very good at Florida State. What are you talking about?
But he is a superstar in the NFL, one of the premier edge rushers. Kansas City, Derek Nottie. Seems like he's been there forever. Derek Nottie has 3 rings, going for his 4th ring on the defensive line. Amazing. Another guy that I didn't think was some elite guy at Florida State, but he was a very steady performer. Fabian Lovett's on the practice team. I don't know if he's going to dress or not. Fabian Lovett, I'm surprised he's personally, I wasn't high on Fabian, but he's on the practice team. He's in the league. So all these guys are potential up for a ring. For their first ring, except Noddy, he's already got 3.
Yeah, so no, congrats to all those guys. It's great. Once again, as the tweet said, that Florida State's been representing the last 13 straight Super Bowls. So that's, once again, a great little recruiting nugget there for players, which is great. And obviously something I'm sure they're blasting out there.
What's your pick?
I don't care.
Well, you gotta care. Come on, it's the Super Bowl. It's an American tradition. What the hell are you talking about? You don't care.
I really don't care.
Okay, I'm going to give you my pick.
Teams.
I'm going to give you my pick. If you don't have time to watch the game, watch the last quarter of the game. Tune in the last quarter. This game is going to go down to the final 2 minutes of the ball game. Whoever has the ball last, I believe, could win the game. But I believe Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes will win this football game. Yes, Barkley is going to get his yards, but Kansas City's got a pretty good defensive line. They're going to put a lot of pressure on Hurts, and I think it's going to be a good football game, a close football game, and it's going to be a close ending. I pick Kansas City. And I don't think the refs are fixed.
Oh, well, you're the only one. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's a good selection. I honestly, I may not even watch the game because I really don't like either team, and I could care less who wins. So
you were disappointed with your Commanders went out, but they had a good year. They look like they got a young core coming up, and the quarterback is legit.
Yeah, we have a great team, and having brought in like 30 or 40 new players in the offseason last year, no one expected it. So,
and your quarterback, Jalen Daniels, is the guy Florida State beat twice. Twice. How about that?
Yep, he's a great quarterback, and so that's what you need. You need a great quarterback at every level. If you don't have one, it's tough to win games. And so,
hey, what's the score on a Florida State softball game right now? You got that real quick before we?
It was 0-0 last time I checked.
Okay.
0-0 in the fourth.
That'd be a nice win for Florida State if we can get it. They're being very competitive. Florida State softball's got a very competitive year, and we'll see how they stand up against the best teams in the country, because we're one of the best teams in the country too. Sure.
All right, couple of quick hitters from Twitter that I had bookmarked before we go here. Clemson's made some couple of big moves in the offseason, like I noted. They have hit the portal a couple of times for some key pieces on their line. Also in coaching, they're hiring NFL talent evaluator Kevin Kelly from the Chargers as their program's new director of evaluation acquisition. $360K for a 2-year deal. As Peter Thamel points out, he was in charge of Chargers senior scouting, and this is the evolution of Clemson's NIL and roster management. He's going to work alongside their GM. I think this is, once again, and you've touched on this, the evolution of the GM type role at institutions. I think in an NFL guy like this who's, as you can see from the track record here, since 2001 worked at the NFL level, who for 19 plus years has scouted NFL talent from the college ranks, can see those types of players that could fit into a program, could be developed, what the signs are, what the traits are, what the physical
And that
features
helps
are.
sells recruiting too.
Sells recruiting, but also makes your program better because you can tell which guys you should get rid of and which guys you should potentially pay more, and see who has upside, who doesn't have upside, and make those evaluations. A pro at making those evaluations instead of some college intern or some guy that's a high school coach coming up. I think this is a huge move. I think this is a very smart move. Or it's better than just a GM trying to make the move. This is another key expert who can work alongside the GM, and it's not just the head coach doing it either. This is a guy brought in just to do this.
You think he's better than our director of scouting for defense, Justin Krause, and Rick Stockstill for the offense? We don't have one centralized GM at this point.
Once again, I think having
I'm sorry, we do. Derek Ray is still our general manager.
Yeah, and he's terrible. I think most people in Florida State fanhood think he's terrible at his job. That's an opinion.
Let me ask you this. We talk.
He's a director of player personnel.
No, but we talk about management efficiency and organizational efficiency. You're hearing that buzzword across the news all these days. How many guys do you need? How many people do you need? You have Derek Ray as the general manager of personnel. You have Jeff Cupper as director of player development and operations. You have Devin Respress, director of recruiting. You have Gerald Ross, director of high school relations. You have Chuck Cantor, director of player personnel. You have DJ Daniels, director of recruiting strategy. You have Corey Fuller, director of football relations. Maddie McCormick, director of recruiting operations. Calvin Bridges, director of creative services and strategy. Where the shit does this end besides Stockstill and Cruz? How many people do you need in this recruiting and evaluation department?
I can't put a number, but staffs are only going to get bigger with NIL. I mean, that was just going to happen.
Isn't it better to have the right people than too many people? Is my point, I guess.
Sometimes not. If you have people kind of subject matter experts doing one thing and doing one thing right, it's good. But if you have people who are not good at doing one thing or they're not doing it to their performance level, then no. Then you have a break in the yarmur or a break in the chain, and then things start to break down.
Well, I have to wonder because they're kind of invisible in the Florida State side of media. So you don't hear much about the off-field staff like the guys I just read, like our general manager. I'd like to see a good interview with him about his job, how he handles all these other guys, and how they all interact with the head coaching staff of Norvell, his top offensive people, top defense people, in terms of bringing the personnel decisions to the point of recruiting or not. I mean, that to me is fascinating. I'm sure it's boring as shit for other people. But, like you said, you're making a very good point here. We are closing the gap, as we've said for a couple of years, with the NFL. You're starting to see now, there's a couple of assistants that just came out of, or they were NFL players now, have joined the Colorado staff under Sanders. You're seeing coaches jump back and forth. Chip Kelly from Ohio State, who had just had a good run as the OC, just took the OC job with the Las Vegas Raiders. This is going to be a back and forth revolving door, guys who are cutting their teeth one place, coming down to cut their teeth another place. I think it's fascinating, and it's part of what's going on.
Yeah. And this will be, for Derek Ray, if he, this will be his, he got a lot of credit for the 2013 transfer portal class and evaluations of Verse, and then he got, and then Fisk in that class and stuff like that, which, he deserves credit for that evaluation process and stuff like that, but last year, not so good. He'll be very much judged on this past class because it wasn't a top 10 transfer class, and a lot of guys that they needed to fill a lot of bodies in, and he's supposed to be looking at all overall roster evaluation, which hasn't been good last couple of years. So he's on the line, and if he's not asking for help, if he's not asking for guys like this, like Clemson's hiring, you gotta question: should you be trying to take it all on in terms of that roster evaluation process and acquisition? And if they fail this year, if they get 2 and 8 duds from the transfer portal like they had last year, not big impact guys, then he may be on the line, regardless of not if Norvell's not on the line. Because they both will be. If Norvell's out, then he's out. So I think that if he didn't ask for a resource, maybe it was denied. But I think that position right there as GM of having a guy like this Kevin Kelly is important, because it just enables. It's another key piece for a guy that's seen years and years of talent float up to the NFL level, and especially at someone who's done it for a good program like the Chargers, who's seen great quarterbacks come through, great linebackers come through, great running backs come through. Like,
here's what I don't understand, and I imagine most Florida State fans don't understand, is what is the relationship I just talked about? What the general manager or player director personnel, who is making the final call on whether we pay a guy and bring a guy in? Is it the general manager or is it the head coach, Mike Norvell? Who?
It says it right here.
Is it a shared responsibility? Do they sit around and vote, on this? Who is fully accountable for the personnel that is on this roster? I don't think anybody kind of knows that.
But it's not for us to know. It's for them to decide as a management team.
Is there anything wrong with knowing that? We know in the NFL.
You don't know how decisions are made at corporate companies. It's no different than at Florida State or Clemson, right? You're not going to know that. That's none of your business.
The NFL, pretty much, it's the general manager who is.
No, it's not, because look at Dallas. Jerry Jones is making a lot of those decisions, and he's just the owner.
Okay, he's the owner. But
and he tells his sons what to do.
Is what I'm saying. It's not the coach. I think there's input in all those guys, but I think it'd be fascinating. But I never see any interviews or anything done on that. So, okay. That's all I got to say on that.
So yeah, that was one big thing I wanted to point out there. I think there's some other stuff happening, which is interesting. But yeah, that was the last kind of big thing that I really wanted to point out. Oh, this was funny. They were asking recruits what the top amenities that recruits were looking for according to NIL collectives, and this was
water park. How about a water park?
Cars, houses, chartered flights, land.
Unbelievable.
Some of this shit I think is made up.
Steakhouse. No, it's not made up. I don't think it's made up at all. What would you?
They're asking for land. You think these kids can't even get some of their stuff in. Some of these kids can't even get their NILs in writing, but they're asking for land.
When you hear a high school quarterback like, let's say, the Arch Manning, and he was supposedly getting $5-6 million, why the shit wouldn't I ask for a 20-acre ranch in Texas?
Because they're too dumb. Some of them are dumb enough to not get it in writing. You think they're smart enough to ask for land?
Well, if they're not, if a player is not smart enough to get it in writing, I don't want him on my roster. I don't want him on my roster. These players,
I agree. He's smart. If a kid is smart enough to ask for land, I agree. He's very smart. But
I don't feel bad for any of these players who start complaining about coaching or universities because they were promised something verbally and got nothing in writing. They got no emails in writing, nothing. They didn't get any contract signed. What are you, a dumbass? Come on. What? That makes no sense. Promises are promises. They don't hold up in court. Documents hold up in court. Learn that lesson, my friends. Learn that lesson.
Learn that lesson.
But yeah, top recruits. Yeah, some of this stuff. I wouldn't doubt it. You don't think a recruit would say, Florida State's trying to bring in a guy from California. They say he's a very high national recruit. You don't think he's going to say, I would like my parents flown in for the games in Tallahassee? You don't think he would say that?
Yeah, no, I
Hell
agree.
Yeah, he would say that.
I agree.
You don't think he would say, listen, I'd like you to rent a condo for my family for the games? You can ask for anything. Doesn't mean you're going to get it. But if you don't, listen, if you don't ask, you don't get, right? If you don't value your importance, KB, in your company, and you think, where am I going here? If I don't ask for something, they're not going to come to you. I don't care how good of guys they are. They may be the best guys on the planet. You're working for the best people. But if you don't ask now and then for a bump, they're not going to come to you.
No, No.
That's real world. So could they ask for these things? I think it's realistic.
Yeah.
Shit. I think it's very realistic.
Couple other things here is that I thought this chart was interesting when it got brought up here. So this guy charted out run games in the college football last year, and we had debated this. We were like, is Gus Malzahn, did he just have the talent last year at UCF, and that's what made him look like a better offensive line coach? Was it scheme, offensive line? Was it a mixture of both, stuff like that? So this guy schemed up a chart of basically college football's best running games last year. To the right,
they use AI to do that.
It's data, so you can chart data.
Doesn't AI use data? Yeah,
you can use data to chart things. Yeah,
of course.
Further to the right, better scheme. So if you have the better scheme, offensive line, you're to the right. If you're further up, it's better running back talent and ability. If you're to the left, you're just terrible at both things. Left and down, you're terrible at both things. You can see where Florida State is.
Not good.
Yeah, terrible.
Not good.
But you can see where UCF is. So they were a mixture of better
this was
scheme,
put together
offensive line.
by Herb Hand's son.
No. But this is, I think this is encouraging because it tells us that if we think we have, we're one, going to get a better scheme, and two, and if we think we have any upgrade in our offensive line, which I think hopefully with some of the pieces we brought in with Pedavon and stuff like that, I think we should see some growth. And I think with a better scheme, I think the scheme last year was just not runnable with some of those guys that we had. I think we should see ourselves in the middle of this pack more because this was just a mixture of terrible offensive line coaches.
You can't go anywhere but up.
If we get to the median of this between what Gus had last year and where we were, I think we should have something of a functional offense right here in the middle next year. So I thought that was interesting.
It is interesting. I think that now the history and trends of Gus Malzahn's offenses has been positive. Okay, yeah. That doesn't mean he wins every game. Doesn't mean he wins national championships. But his offensive production has been positive. History and trending. He's not a one guy, one-time guy. He's been around a long time, so that's good news.
Yep.
Yep. Castellano's history is that guy can win games and he can produce points and he can produce points with his legs. So you want a Patrick Mahomes type quarterback? I'm not comparing the two, but he is a guy that can make plays with his legs, he can make busted plays, and he can score points. I think it's going to be very interesting, I think, when we get into talking about the offensive rooms and all that stuff. So.
Yeah, agreed. So that's it for me in terms of what I had.
What's the latest score? We got a score on softball?
I don't. I put close the tab. I closed the tab. So what happened?
Take to open a tab.
Do you know how bad the Florida State website is? It takes a while.
It is. Hey, they finally updated their roster.
I don't care.
I do care. Jeez, you don't care about a lot of stuff.
I don't have time to care about a lot of stuff. So, yeah, that is it. But like you said, softball is live right now. If anyone wants to check that out, because they don't.
FSU end of the fourth, 5. Ladies softball, Knowles 5, OSU 0. That's the end of the fourth, and we're going into the fifth. We only play 7 innings, so we got to hang on defensively now. Okay,
you think I could find that on the homepage, but I can't.
Yeah, that's a lot of runs. So looks like our pitching's holding up. I think this team can score runs for sure. It's how well will the pitching hold up? Same thing with men's baseball. So
awesome. All right.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's going to do it. So, yeah, we'll be back next time with some other summary of what's been going on. Hopefully, obviously off season.
Something's worth.
So Florida State basketball is not going to be going anywhere in March, but unless they do have a magical run, we'll see if they can give Coach Ham a send off in the tournament here, but we got a month to go towards that. So yeah.
Hey, listen, sometimes when KB's working, he's out of town or whatever. Sometimes I like to just jump in here. Okay, you may not get a lot of notification. I may just be going over simple stuff, or if there is something significant, I'll definitely jump on too. That's how we kind of roll. All right, and we appreciate it. Now, we never asked for this, but please do. If you're new, please hit us with a subscribe. Hit the bell. That way you know when we come up. KB's not the greatest guy about setting times and dates. Okay, he's just not. We're transparent, so I could say it. Would you agree with that? Yes, you would.
Sure.
Okay,
sure.
Hit us with a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe. Hit that bell, and we enjoy this. That's why we do it. Okay.
I do have to do one more call out, and that is to my alma mater, because I didn't get into Florida State, but my George Mason Patriots are having one of our best seasons in a while. And
are they going to bring back your old coach? Why did
he is there? He is there. Tony Skin's there.
No.
And this is an example of what Florida State could do if they brought back a legend like Sam Cassell. Tony Skin, if you don't know, was part of our Final Four team. Now he's coaching. He coached at Maryland before as an assistant. He knocked around and he came back home, and he's brought us to 19 in 5. We won tonight, homecoming game.
Are they going to go to the tournament, you think?
If we A10 may get 2 teams, may get 1. We're 10-1 right now. Best season probably in the last 10 years.
If they win the tournament, they're in the automatic, right?
Yeah. A10 win. Yeah, you get an automatic bid. So.
Oh, that would be good. That'd be
but
good.
he's built back. I mean, our last coach left after 2 years to go to Providence, and now he's struggling, which I love to see because he just quit on us. So, but I love to see a guy like this. So I'm hoping Florida State, like I said, can get a guy and that's why I kind of dismiss it, but Luke Locks, maybe this is where you get a guy. Maybe a Luke Locks could do something like this, come back to the school where he played, and
you don't know,
and turn things around. I know it's different level A10, but I just want to shout out because I'm excited. He's brought life back into the building in Fairfax and done it. So I wanted to do a shout there because he's hopefully get us back to the tournament after a while, and you'll see what happens. You never know in March. So shout out to him and to the Patriots. So, all right, that's going to do it. So thank you all for coming out. Enjoy some basketball this weekend. Enjoy if you're going to be watching the Super Bowl this weekend, no matter who you're voting for, even though I don't care. If you do care, enjoy, have some nice food.
Hey, what did you think of my short on going to the Super Bowl on that airplane ride? Did you see that?
Insane.
Remember, don't order the cheese platter.
But guys, be safe this weekend, wherever you're watching. Enjoy some food, enjoy some drinks, and remember you have to wake up on Monday and work. So remember that. So enjoy,
I'm glad I'm not going in for my procedure on this Monday.
Yeah.
That would not be good.
But enjoy it, guys. Have a great weekend. Thanks for stopping by, whether you're live or recorded. We appreciate it. And we'll see you soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.